Good afternoon. Hi there. How are you? My name is Pat Campbell, radio talk show host from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm here with the rational male, Rollo Tomassi. This is Red Pill 101, episode 8. Dream Killers. Killers. This is going to be a great one. But before we do that, we got some special announcements.
Yeah, I got a few things that I need to get out of the way. If you're in the chat right now and you're listening to me and I start fading for whatever reason, like my mic is going out, I saw last week that I had some audio problems. I've rewired a few things here, so now I'm not using the Wi-Fi. I'm got a direct connection into the modem right now. So hopefully that's gonna take care of a few things. I also have a brand new audio set that's coming in. I've decided to put a little bit of money into my equipment instead of this old thing. Let's see what else we have going on. Still working on the 4th book. I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a show with Donovan Sharp at 2:00 my time, which is Pacific time. So that will be 5 o'clock on
Eastern,
East Coast. And then and it's a possibility, just watch this space or watch my Twitter, because I'm going to be getting together with George Bruno, and we're going to finally start talking a little bit more about Christianity and the red pill, only because I feel like that needs to be a part of this channel, or maybe its own kind of little section, as opposed to something that we do on the Red Man group. I was not in on yesterday's Red Man group, just simply because I actually have other things that I have to do.
You have a life?
Hey, I have a life. No, actually, I have things are going to be a little bit different, I think, in 2019 for me when it comes to my other business. I actually don't do this for a living, and so like a lot of times I'm at like liquor promos, or I'm doing stuff like just on-site type things that I have to be a part of. And so sometimes that's great when I can get up early enough, or I just stay up all night and then I go and do the show, and then I go to sleep after that. So it's going to be a little weird, I think, in 2019, because I got a new arrangement with the company that I'm working with.
By the way, with George Bruno, I can't say enough about the guy. I met him for the first time at the 21 convention. He is a smooth operator, but I watched him in action. He found something nice to say about everybody he met. He gave everybody he met a boost, and everybody he met is going to remember him. But we got into a great conversation because he used to be very involved in the Christian community. He went to Promise Keepers and all this stuff. The dude has got such amazing perspective. He says the reason wives are so happy when their husbands go to Promise Keepers is because they know they're being trained to be good little betas when they come home. But George has just got great material.
Yeah, he's, it's funny is I didn't really even think of using George as a resource for the 4th book right until he had said something about that. And just recently, this last week, the week before, we just kind of got, a lot of the guys that I do the Patriarchs show with on the Red Man group, we start talking about some religious issues and things, and just like how that squares and how that doesn't square with a lot of red pill praxology. So some of it's very uncomfortable and some of it's very hard to talk about, and really that's one of the reasons I'm writing the 4th book, is because it's difficult to talk about. People don't know this, but I'm going to be targeting book 4 at a Christian / religious market, as opposed, in addition to, but primarily in addition to the red pill.
Hold on. Are you marketing to them, or are you going to be? My understanding is we're going to be exposing them.
Oh yeah, that too.
That's what I want to do.
Maybe not marketing is the wrong word. Targeting them, exposing that. There are. This is something I really kind of was hoping to save for George Bruno, but and maybe we'll bring you in too on it. But there is I think that there is a real thirst or real need or desire for a lot of particularly evangelical Christian guys to sort of sort things out for themselves in today's intersexual dynamics and in our intersexual social dynamics, I guess, and really sort of understand the realities that they're not being taught in the church, and how those churches have been assimilated by the feminine imperative, and they end up becoming a product of that assimilation, and they don't even realize they are until it's too late, until they're in a position.
Speaking of that, you tweeted a link to an article about this liturgical dancing inside the Catholic Church. I'm telling you, this has been going on for a couple of years, more than a couple of years now. But you're exactly right. This is the feminine imperative. It's infiltrated every Christian denomination you can possibly think about there. The only place it really hasn't infiltrated right now is Islam.
And I would say that it is slowly infiltrating Islam. I mean, certainly not in the more fundamentalist side of things, but like guys tell me all the time, well, in Islam, we have a certain expectation of our women. Yeah, okay, I get that. But then what's funny is like the more westernized that Islamic country becomes, the more they relax those laws. Like in Saudi Arabia right now, women can own businesses, they can drive themselves around. And I don't care either way about those things, but those are indications of westernization or westernized feminism that is slowly assimilating. It's not, it's a little bit here, a little bit there. It just kind of, scratches off a little bit more of the veneer and keeps going until it gets its way in there. And then suddenly it's like we have, symbolic dances in the imams or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Now the liturgical dancing is such a joke. It's just don't even get me started. Hey, real quick, I threw you a listener email. I thought you'd get a kick out of this morning.
Sure, so, we can start with that.
Yeah. Okay. And this is addressed to either one of us, I guess. It says, but specifically you, if you are not her number one priority, what should you do? Signed. I like this. Disappointed in Tulsa. Go ahead.
Disappointed in Tulsa. Is that guy married? That would be my first question.
Don't know. I don't know.
I would say that he probably is. And usually I get this question from married guys because they get into a situation and they realize, 6 months, a year and a half after they've become, committed, and there's, really literally no way out for them. I get this question is like, how do I get her to, reprioritize me, assuming he ever had frame in the first place. I always tell guys to go through what I call the reconstruction. I've got a series of posts, and it's actually in book 3, the positive masculinity. It's a 4 post series that I directed it towards the guys who are awakened while married, and I don't give prescriptions because I can't do that for every single guy and say it's going to be 100%, but those are suggestions and those are ways. So if this guy is listening right now, go look up it's called the Reconstruction, and it's a 4-part series on my blog. Just search for it.
Here's the thing though, because I've used this as an argument before with guys dating single moms who have at least a child, perhaps out of wedlock. Okay. Some of the argument against that in the past would be, well, you know what? You're never going to be your number one priority. That kid's always going to be number one. But the reality is, and I know this because I'm married and I've got 5 kids, right? Once you get kids in the picture, I don't even think it's realistic for a guy to expect that he's going to be the priority all the time. Because, life happens. If you've got kids, and you don't have to be actually enrolled in the cult of the child, but when children are here, they're going to become a priority at times too.
I'm glad you mentioned the cult of the child, because at some point we're going to have to do a full dedicated episode to the cult of the child. We've talked about, if you have anybody in the chat or anybody's listening to this, if you haven't listened to my segments with Pat on Fridays, you really should, because that's where we talked about the cult of the child several times on there. Really what that is it's this sort of social narrative or this socialized normalization that children should come first no matter what. It should always be no matter what they are. And so consequently, what a lot of people do, and particularly feminists and particularly women, they use the children to hide behind as sort of ideological human shields. And so it's true. I mean, that's what we remember when we were talking about the kids who were March for Our Lives, it's like the kids. And if you said anything against what they were doing, or if you were critical of them in any way, it was like, don't you care about the children? What about think of the children?
Look at the little girl down at the border right now, the 7-year-old that died of dehydration. They will use that as a tool. Absolutely.
They are human shields for ideologies, is what they are.
I had a guy call the program actually off air last week who he doesn't have any kids, okay, but they've got 5 dogs. Guess what his bitch was? His complaint: the dogs are more important than him. In other words, it doesn't matter if there's kids. The dogs are really their surrogate kids.
I'm not going to name names, but I have a couple of guys who are these divorced guys that I have sort of, I've been counseling them since before they got divorced, and now that they're after the divorce. And it's like, it's interesting to see, like, or really kind of experience who they were before and after. And it's interesting, both of them had the same complaint. It's like, I am not my wife's number one priority in her life. Right? She doesn't even know who I am. Like, I've said this before. It's like, what would you rather have if you died? Would you rather have your best friend give your eulogy, or would you rather have your wife give your eulogy? Who knows more about your life? Is it your wife?
What do they say? What do they tell you?
And I would, you know, and they always say it's my best friend, or like it's the guy I knew in the military, or something, you know, something like that. It was always somebody else, my brother.
Most women would be too emotional if they just lost their spouse.
I think so, but I think that a lot of women simply don't, like, they're set it and forget it, right? Oh, I got married. He's my husband. You know, he's over there, you know, and then they go about their lives, and now that they're married, now they're Mrs. So-and-so, and they get on with whatever they're doing. And so I'm not saying that children aren't important. They should be, but I think particularly in this day and age, we overemphasize that importance. Right. And women, if I said this on your show, women would just string me up. They would put me up, run me up the flagpole. But women use that as a, remember, we're talking about how they use children as an ideological human shield. Well, women do the same thing with their children. Like, well, I have to think about so-and-so first, or especially if they're single mothers. And guys expect that now, because we tell these guys, you should always, you know, do everything for the kid. Well, what that means is do everything for the woman, because who is the caretaker of the woman? Or the caretaker of the children is the woman. So what happens, I think this is really interesting too, when it comes to abortion, we put the child above all other considerations, unless it's an unborn child, and then we put the woman's considerations above everything else.
That's a recurring theme, though, that I hear from guys, especially over 40, especially those that have gone through divorce. Okay, what about me? What about me? When do I become a priority? When do I get my turn? You know? And because they're put off.
Yeah, you and I were talking about the importance of like dogs. Remember, I told you about the damn dog, or I have a post called "The Damn Dog," and it is how women will prioritize their cats and their pets above human interactions and human contact, because they are more comfortable with a one-sided relationship where they only get affection and love and understanding, and it's only one way. Right. They don't have to give the other way. Like, they don't have to worry about the feelings of another person when it's a cat or when it's a dog.
It plays into their nurturing nature. I've got an older lady listener who her whole family has passed on. She's been through like 4 husbands. She doesn't have any kids. She had she had major heart surgery, but she had to get back home to her farm to take care of her children. She's got goats. Those are her kids. Those are her surrogate, you know, people. That's who she gets. That's her purpose. They're her purpose for living.
They're her fur babies, right? That's what women call them. Right?
I know.
Yeah. Well, just to put an ending on this is, I think that guys who are in that situation, if you're single, get out, just leave, just don't even bother with it, because if you are not that woman's number one priority, you are negotiating desire. That woman should want to know. She should want you and desire you enough, or it should be a healthy enough relationship where you control the frame and she admires you enough to want to get to know you and to want to be a part of that frame and to be a part of your world. And what is a prerequisite of that is learning about that guy and understanding that that's what she wants to be. Well, you know, kids come second, you come first, because it's the health of the marriage that dictates how those kids and how that family is going to go. So if mom and dad ain't cool, then it doesn't matter, you know, we're going to do it all for the kids. And that's one of the reasons why we were talking about this before about great divorce. Yep. Yeah. These guys get to, like, these baby boomers get to be like, you know, 55, 60. Well, actually now they're all 65 years old. And then, you know, at some point along that way, when they become empty nesters, they look across the table at each other and they go, who the hell are you? Yeah. You know, and so all these are the guys that tell you, I'm sticking it out. I'm going to stay in the marriage for the kids. Well, great. There's going to come a day where that's not going to be the issue anymore.
What are the warning signs? I want to help guys out before they get hitched. What are the warning signs to look out for in a relationship when you're dating somebody that you're not going to be the priority once the ring's on, once the rock's on the finger? That's really tough.
I've had this conversation with Rich Cooper before, where he says, you know, how do you vet for things like that? I think that there needs to be an implicit trust for a guy. If she can't trust you, like driving her around, like I always use this as an example. Like my wife always expected me to drive the car. That was sort of the set point for me to understand that I am the one who is doing the driving and I'm the one who is in control of the relationship. If the woman says, I believe in 50-50, right? Or what were you saying? If she has cats, that's a red flag. But if she believes in an egalitarian setup, forget it. Don't even consider it. You need to have and we're about to talk about this, about Prince Harry here in just a minute. You need to have polarity between the two of you. She needs to accept you for who you are and accept your frame for what it is. And if she doesn't want that, then fine, move on, go find someone else. But there needs to be that admiration. There needs to be that masculine dominance. You need to be the primary player in the relationship. And if that's not happening before you get married, it sure as shit's not going to happen after they get married. So you need to find someone who's like that. I've said this before. It's like, you need to find a woman who trusts you with their life. The other thing I was thinking of, and I don't think I've ever said this, is I think one of the ways you can tell, and people are going to scoff at this, but one of the ways that I think that you can tell whether you're the primary or whether you're somebody that woman wants to place in, in an admiration state or like thinks about you, is if you're driving along and you've gone to like, you've got food in the car with you, is her first inclination to feed you while you're driving? Like if your hands are busy doing something else and you're eating, does she feed you automatically? Does she naturally feed? Because I see this as kind of almost an evolved, almost like a primate kind of thing, where it's like when there's an alpha male, the women or the females of the pack will come and nurture the alpha guy. They'll bring him food. They'll pick the nits off of him or whatever. That kind of animalistic thing. Whereas when there's beta males, the women will give the betas sexual access, but those betas have to bring something. They got to bring food. They got to bring a coconut. They got to, preen the woman. They have to have some sort of value that they bring to the table. Otherwise, they don't give them sexual access. And I think that there's almost an analogous situation between that. So, like, is it her inclination to want to feed you?
Yeah, little things, I'm thinking about that too. Say, for example, you got a water bottle next to you. You're driving, you're going 70 miles an hour or whatever. She opens the bottle for you so you don't spill it, or she opens the drink or something without being asked. Right.
Well, and you can almost like, there's a parallel to this as well. It's like if you are at like the dinner table, does she clear your dishes for you to take it away? Does she bring you the food? Does she look at things in a sense where she's deferring to you and she's bringing you stuff? And is it a natural part of what she is? Women defer to men for two reasons. The first one is they really feel that way. They understand the sexual market value difference, or they see you as the primary, and they want to do that. They naturally want to do that, or they've been trained to do that. They have been raised that way to go and, daddy is the primary, go bring him his food, go bring him his beer, go bring him his whatever, that kind of thing. They've either been trained or they really genuinely want to do that.
Okay. Let's get to dream killers, the topic of today's show. Explain what this is all about. And it goes to Prince Harry and his new bride.
Right. Well, people have been throwing, gosh, I should have brought it up too. People have been throwing at me this story about how Prince Harry is passing on, I guess, the royal pheasant hunt. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a royal pheasant hunt.
He's done other stuff like this where he's bypassed traditional family outings for her. And this is, I don't know, this is supposed to be some great sign of how much he loves her. Or he's doing his white knight thing. Well, but more importantly, you're stabbing your family in the back. Hello.
Well, yeah, that is like, I think one of the things in an unhealthy relationship, in a codependent relationship, in a BPD, relationship, particularly with the BPD, that BPD woman, which I mean, borderline personality disorder, so people know, that woman isolates that man away from friends, isolates that man away from family, isolates him away from the things that he used to love to do. I think you've probably experienced this before. You got a friend that you like, your best friend, and then suddenly he gets a girlfriend and you never hear from him.
Gone, disappear, vanish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The guy was a diehard musician or is a diehard, sports fanatic or whatever, whatever he did. And then suddenly he stops doing all that. And he does that because he thinks it's his duty to sacrifice those things to support that relationship or to facilitate that relationship or to appease that woman. And really what we're going to talk about here in Dream Killers Dream Killers, by the way, is a chapter in my first book. And it's also really kind of, I think, pretty hard hitting essay that I did very long time ago. Dream Killers is one of the posts that I did that was an extension of one of a very long forum post that I did on So Suave back in the early 2000s. So this is not something new. That's why I wanted to use it for, Red Pill 101, because it's something, that I think is a basic thing. And
all of your stuff, here's the kicker with your stuff, all of your stuff has stood the test of time. You may have written something back in 2003. It is still as relevant today, if not more so, than it was when you wrote it.
Yeah, just like chore play. Chore play keeps going. It goes through cycles.
Right.
It goes. People or women make passes at guys who wash glasses. That kind of shit. They write that, and then literally 6 months, a year and a half later, then comes out the other one by the same exact author. Oh, but it turns out that women really don't like that so much. And they would rather a guy go out and chop wood and fix the car and mow the lawn. And these masculine chores make them hotter than if, and so it goes in this cycle because it's all clickbait. It's just to get people to
understand the royals, though. Okay. First of all, their dad, Prince Charles.
Yeah.
First, in addition to being a misfit, he's not an intellectual giant. He's a dolt, but he's also the ultimate beta who's led around by the nose. So you've got his two sons. They've got beta for a daddy, right? And remember, mommy raised them, and mommy raised them to be perfect little betas. So it's no surprise that he's in a situation like this right now, where he's not the puppet master, but his new wife is.
That's a good starting point for this, because I get a lot of questions from men who say, "Well, why would a woman want to raise her kids to be perfect betas?" Right? Well, generally it's because she's looking for something, and this may not be the case. I'm not saying it's exactly the case for the royal family, but I would say that in most cases, women try to raise the kind of sons that they believe would be the perfect beta, or would be the idealized guy. But they have that familiarity with them, or they have that family element to them. So, once again, hypergamy is alpha fucks and beta bucks. And women, if you've got somebody who is part of your family or you're familiar with, you don't see them in a sexual light. So what's left? It's to turn them into good, dutiful betas and think about her. And, when I look at the relationship between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, I see a classic beta. I mean, this is a textbook situation of a beta who has pedestalized women his entire life.
Right.
And then I can remember, and now I finally got a little bit of vindication for this. I can remember when they were first getting married, and I saw this and I said that, and everybody jumped out of their fucking skin to tell me that I was wrong. Like, he went to the military, he flew helicopters, man. He's alpha as possible can be. I'm like, okay, well, your alpha has now decided he's going to buck tradition because his wife has a problem with hunting, and something that he's been doing for over 20 years. That's what the article said. He's been doing this hunt for 20 years. His brother is like, what the hell, man? And he's just putting it off because he doesn't want to upset his wife.
These guys, by the way, both Harry and his brother, they're thirsty. And I'll tell you what they're thirsty for. Yeah. They're thirsty for female affection, because they came out of a house which was basically a loveless, sexless marriage. Okay, but neither party, and they don't want to wind up like their dad. They don't want to wind up like their mom. So he sees this girl, and he's sinking everything he's got into it. And we know a lot of people that are maybe they're alpha as CEOs of company, but they go home and they're so beta, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
So you can be both.
You can people think that for whatever reason that if you're alpha, you have to be red pill. No, not at all. There's guys that are alpha that are still they make the worst white knights as alpha, blue pill alpha guys. Yeah. They're the ones who, I'll fight for my lady's honor, that kind of shit. and
Well,
they're happy to white knight for stuff like that. And there's also blue pill, or there's also guys who are red pill who are still very much beta, and they're trying to do something different with themselves. They're not mutually, I should say they are mutually exclusive. So you don't.
Let's talk about Harry's situation here. And I told you off air, my father was born in Glasgow, Scotland. He came over here to the States after World War II as a wee lad. Okay, he's an American citizen now, served in the U.S. Army. But one of the things that just sticks in his side is when he was a kid, Edward VIII had to abdicate his throne. Why? Because he married a divorced woman, Wallis Simpson, who even by 1930 standards, I'm sorry, was ugly. Okay, so I'm telling you, same situation here. Because no, you go back and you look at Edward. Edward was like the Brad Pitt back then. The dude had game, and he settled. He settled for her. And he gave everything up for her. But boy, women love that story because, he sacrificed everything for the true love of his life. Right. That's exactly what Harry is doing here.
Yeah. Well, and one of the reasons that especially women get on Harry's side is, first of all, he's playing into the feminine imperative, the narrative of the feminine imperative. I'm looking here on the chat right now. This guy, Black Uhura, says the dude had his pick of almost every chick on earth, and he marries an older divorced actress. Tells me all I need to know about Harry. Yes, exactly. He's looking for, honestly, I think he's looking for a mommy substitute.
I was going to say that mommy figure.
He's looking for a mommy substitute. And then that sort of means that I got to rewind a little bit and look at mommy. So if you look at Princess Diana, I believe it was Princess Diana, who was these kids' father, right? Mother. Yeah. So she goes from a royal beta. I mean, and I mean that figuratively and literally. Right. She goes from a royal beta, and what does she start doing once she gets divorced? She starts going and partying, and she died in a car crash because she was out partying and doing blow or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but I know that the paparazzi were all about it, and back in the day that was pretty scandalous. But she had gone from that comfortable beta, those comfortable beta bucks. And what was the first thing that she did when she got free? She decided to go crazy alpha. She wanted to go have parties. She wanted to have some excitement.
She did what she hadn't done in her 20s.
Yes,
she was right.
She did what I've got another post called "Making Up for Missing Out," and that's exactly what she did. She started to make up for missing out. And so now you've got mommy, who is sort of, people can say whether she's imbalanced or she wasn't imbalanced. I don't know. I don't want to talk shit about the princess, but that's the thing. Is nobody wants to talk shit about the princess. Nobody wants to actually psychoanalyze this person.
You're forgetting she was a princess. That makes this even more important. That's why she was put on that pedestal. These candlelight vigils we see now when people pass away, that never happened until she died. That's when it first started.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and so there's this romanticization of it. Well, oh my gosh, she's a martyr. She's everybody's in love with her. Well, the same thing is happening kind of with Meghan Markle, because I will tell you right now that from what I saw of the comments on some of these, on some of the stories, and there's been more than one, and so a lot of the tweets that I'm seeing, women want to take Meghan's side. Well, that's what he should do. And that's how he's just proving himself that he's really involved in the marriage, and he really cares about the health of the marriage and everything. And I'm looking at this, and from a red pill, with a red pill lens, I'm saying this is the kiss of death for this guy. Yeah. Because what he's done, and this is the dream killers part of this whole thing. What he's done is he has pretty much put all of his, and this is just one illustration of that. He's put his loved hobbies, his love passion, and this is for most guys, but in his case, he likes to go out and hunt. I mean, obviously he's been doing it for a long time. It's a kind of a tradition for them, and that's what they like to do. She steps in and she says, no. Now, is she saying no in like, I don't want you to do it? No, she's not direct about it. He gets the idea from her that, oh gosh, if I'm going to keep the peace, I'm going to have to, if I want to keep getting pussy, I'm going to have to go and I'm going to have to say, yeah, sorry, bro, I can't go this year. Right. And then of course your bro looks at you like, what the hell, why are you doing that? Because there's a different mechanic, or there's a different relationship between his brother and the other princess, and his situation. They're both really kind of beta, but I think there's
degrees of beta too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And of the two, I would say Harry is the most bottom of the barrel one.
How sad is this? This kid stands to be king someday. Okay, if he plays his cards right, but he's still in a position where he has to barter. He has to bargain to get tail. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And this is this is a common occurrence for beta male guys, is they want to give everything. They've been conditioned from a very early age to be what I call betas in waiting. Okay. And what that means is that from the very, and I've got, I put the post in the description here. So go look in the description. And there, I have a post called Betas in Waiting. And what it is it's sort of, people always ask me, well, what's the blue pill? Well, the blue pill is really a social narrative, a social design, a social conditioning that conditions men to be the perfect beta male when women need that guy to be that guy, right? Mm-hmm. So it is conditioned so that men will pedestalize women. We call it, the pedestalization side of things, that will make women and womankind, not just necessarily a particular woman, although it could be, but womankind, to place them as a man's mental point of origin. And if you look at Harry right now, you can tell that his mental point of origin is not himself, it is Meghan Markle. And that's why he's doing what he's doing. That's why he's okay with that isolation. That's why he's okay with being, sort of nickeled and dimed and pulled apart. It's like, I think, was it death by 1,000 paper cuts? That's what Carl from Black Label Logic calls it. It's your relationship is dying by 1,000 paper cuts. Well, that's what's happening with him right now.
There's also an age difference here. He's 34, she's 37. And right now,
she's been married before too.
Multiple times. Plus she's also got sort of a sketchy film career, some of the things she was involved in before.
Right.
But between the two of them, okay, right now that's going to work. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what kind of a shelf life this has. Maybe it makes it 5 years. I'm telling you though, 10 years from now, when she's 47 and he's 44, everything flips. It's a whole different ballgame.
If they even get to that point.
If they ever make it to that point.
Honestly, right. I don't see them even making to that point and it won't be Harry. It'll be her that gets sick of him. Because what happens is when women do that, when men allow, because right now he's not in his frame, he's in her frame. Clearly is in her frame. And I'm trying to, as I'm saying this, remember, I'm trying to make this as general as possible. I'm trying to make this as applicable as I can to other men who are in this situation. Because a lot of red pill guys don't remember what it was like to be blue pill. And this is part of that. Or if you are blue pill right now, or if you have not been exposed to red pill awareness. And when I'm saying this, it's like really shocking. Like, oh my gosh, he's talking about me. I'm trying to make this more about guys in general, as opposed to, another paparazzi story here.
Right.
Because he's the Pat and Rollo got together and they just started talking about, shit in Vice. It's like, no, that's not what
what I would love to do? I would love to send Anthony Dream Johnson on a mission to get her. Okay. And here's how
he probably could.
I'd put my money up. But here's
Christian McQueen, if you're watching, you need to go after Meghan Markle.
Here's the thing he would do, because I've listened to him long enough. He would tell her no. She would be so turned on by somebody saying no that she'd probably go for it.
And that's what I mean by a healthy relationship is defined not by communication. It's by polarity. It's polarity between the two of them. And when he says, yes, dear, I won't go hunting because I know it upsets you. When he says that, he is giving that much more back. And he's saying he's relinquishing. It's what I call the abdication imperative. He is abdicating his authority. Of course, most of it's gone anyways, but I'm trying to make this as general as possible. It's like guys will abdicate little by little by little. And most of the time, because they are betas in waiting and because they've been blue pill conditioned for a very long time, they think that it is their masculine duty to give up that stuff. To say, oh, you know what? I need to be an adult now. I don't need to go hiking anymore. I don't need to go hunting anymore. I don't need to go fishing anymore. I don't need those silly hobbies that I used to have before I had a woman, because now I have to show you how important you are. And I have to make, they always say, oh, relationships take a lot of work. And I'm working on my relationship by, abdicating more and more of my authority. And so guys think that that's the natural progression because they're what I call pre-whipped. They are whipped by a society that tells them that that's what they're supposed to do. The social order, the blue pill conditioning teaches them that it is, if they want to be considered a man, they have to give up all of this stuff and give up their ambitions, give up their family, give up their hopes and their dreams, not even, in some cases, not even pursue it, and put all of their eggs in one basket. And for the most part, I think we talked about this last week about how or I should say, I wrote about this last week, about how there is different sexual strategies for different kinds of guys. For the alpha sexual strategy, it's a guy that's going to go out and have fun with whoever he wants to and can nail whatever he wants to, whenever he wants to. Then there's the guys, the 80% of beta guys who their sexual strategy is better spent, or their time is better spent if they focus on just one woman. Well, Harry doesn't know he's a prince. You know, he doesn't know that he can go out. He hasn't accepted that because that's been conditioned out of him. I mean, you're talking about a prince who was like, the guy in the chat was just saying, you know, he could have anything that he wants. He could have anything he wants, but he's been conditioned to think that this is a good idea, and conditioned to think that he has to sacrifice himself, his identity, so that he can be more alike that. And that's really where I wanted to go with this, is because, and I've talked to you about this on several occasions, is men will give up on themselves so that they can foster or facilitate that relationship that much better. So what do? They go and they say, you know, maybe it's better for them to go to a certain college, but they want to keep their relationship going. So they go and they apply to the college that their girlfriend is at, you know, and then they completely alter the course of their lives that would probably have been better spent, and probably would have had more respect from the woman if the guy had said, you know what, you go there, I'm going to go here, we're going to split up, and, you know, we're going to go our separate ways. It was fun while it lasted. See you later. She's going to have more respect for that guy than if the guy said, you know what, I know I wanted to be a doctor, but I think I'm going to have to put that on hold, and I'll go and I'll become a doctor after you get your degree. Right.
Quick story. My oldest daughter, goes away to college. She had a scholarship for playing softball. Her boyfriend in high school changed his game plans to go to the school that she went to. They went there first semester. She dumps him.
Right.
It's like, you idiot. What did you go there for? Why did you do that? Why didn't you go to the place you wanted to go to?
You would be surprised how many guys will change their educational plans. They will decline really good paying jobs so that they can be with that chick. And these are not men who are married already. These are men who are just boyfriend, girlfriend, right? And they're like, oh, okay. You know, I have to do, maybe it's because they don't want to be like their old man, right? They want to make it work no matter what. You know, love conquers all. You know, I tell guys all the time that when you are in a long distance relationship, it's like having an invisible friend, because you're out having fun and your friends are out having fun, and you're there with your invisible friend, you know, hey, me and my girl, oh, you know, but you're on your phone and you're talking to her all the time. And it's like, you don't have a relationship. You just have sort of this surveillance thing going in your head rather than having something go on.
I told you the story. I actually dated a girl. And I went to pick her up at her apartment, and there was a picture on the mantelpiece of a guy in military dress. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, is that your brother? Whatever. That's her fiance. I said, what? I said, you're engaged? She goes, yeah, but it's not serious. It's like when he's done and he gets back, if nothing else works out for us. But this guy's putting his own life on hold. Meanwhile, she's back home in the States. Around.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, I think you should also, and this could be also another episode we do, but women have plan Bs. I think it was like 46% of women that were,
that was her plan B. That was her plan B.
Was to have a plan B, to have a guy that's there, you know, just in case things don't work out, that guy's going to be there. And they'll have plan Bs even after they're married. And a lot of beta men who are married to these women who know about the plan B, they're okay with that too. They don't see anything wrong with that, because they think that guys and girls can be friends anyways, right? Not in the way that you would think. But anyway, just getting back to Harry.
Well, you got that line about, you know, women have girlfriends and boyfriends. If you're not
if you're not banging her, then you are her girlfriend. And that's simply how. We should really talk about that sometime in a dedicated show where we discuss the friendship thing.
Okay, back to the Dream Killers.
So anyways, I just was looking in the chat here. It's like, imagine if Harry had would kill himself over Meghan, right? And that seems like really far-fetched right now, but I don't think so, because these are the guys who get zeroed out. And he's, you know, you think, well, he's a prince. How can he possibly get zeroed out? He's going to get zeroed out emotionally. He's going to say, well, that was my one. She was my one. That's what really, why else would you have the pick of any chick that you want, and you marry a 36-year-old divorcee? But what makes a guy do that? Well, because he believes in the soulmate myth, because he believes in that shit. He believes in I would say, if you were to go up and you were to ask Harry, are you a feminist, a male feminist? He would say,
oh
yes.
Yeah. So this would be a fascinating program too, by itself. And you know, for the 22 convention for women, how did she bag him? What did she do to get him?
She probably saw I mean, at her age and after having been through the relationship she's been through, if you know anything about her history, you know, I'd say her brother just thinks that she's the worst shit in the world, I think. But her dad, she's like really estranged from her family, and
her sister,
that is classic of a borderline personality disorder. So there's that. But I think that she probably saw Harry for what he is. He's a beta, and he's looking for a mommy, and she was happy to fill that role because there's a lot to go. If he was not a prince, she would never have had anything to do with the guy, right? Unless he had a lot of money or had some sort of resource. She certainly didn't marry him because he was so alpha that she could just, I got to be in his family. I really got to be part of his life. It's not that. It's just she wants to be able to say she's a princess. But you know, these guys will put everything on it. And if you're in a relationship right now, you're listening to this and you're in a relationship right now and you've decided that there's a hobby that you have that you love sincerely, and you go, and your wife thinks it's stupid and childish or whatever, you know, guys will make up. It's like, well, you know, maybe it's time I need to be an adult and give up all this stuff. You know, it's like, no, don't do that. Don't. There are parts of yourself that you need to hang on to because it's the differences. Like I said, it's polarity that keeps a relationship healthy. And so when a guy and a woman have disagreed, you know, maybe you say, well, we're compatible, except for he's got this really goofy, nerdy hobby, or he's, you know, he's always away at work. You know, when it's funny because when it's a hobby that benefits that woman's ego, she's okay with that. But when it's not, and when it isn't bringing money in, and when it seems like a waste of time to that woman, then it's quote unquote a childish hobby. So if a guy is going and he's really into playing basketball with his friends after work, you know, well, he looks better in his physical fitness and he looks good, so maybe she's okay with that. But if the guy is into playing, you know, World of Warcraft or something like that, and then she says, you know, this is stupid. Why do you do this? You know, this is immature. He says, well, you know, it relaxes me. I play video games, yada yada. You know, some women are cool with that, some women aren't. But I think that once they get into that situation where they're living a life together and they're supposed to be adults and we've got a kid on the way and all that, then it's time to quote unquote put away the childish things. And the childish things are whatever isn't complementary to that woman's ego.
Interesting. So how long do you give this relationship? We talked a little bit about that a few minutes ago. What's the shelf life on this thing? You think she ends it?
I think she ends it. Yeah, I think she will end it at some. Yeah, I would say. People are going to quote me here. I would say probably within the next 3 to 5 years, if not sooner. But between 3 and 5 years, I think that this whole thing will be over.
Unless we can get Anthony over there quicker.
Yeah, exactly. Unless somebody can go put the moves on her, right? But I think that the really important part to remember about this is that if you're feeling like you need to give up like integral parts of yourself, if you have to give up integral parts of yourself to appease a woman, you are no longer in your frame. Okay. If you have to give up your family, if you have to give up the things that you love prior to meeting this woman, and she say, and it's never going to be, she's never going to say, I want you to give up hunting. She's just going to go, okay, do whatever you want. You know, she's just going to be like very passive aggressive about the whole thing. Yeah. And guys, like in dream killers, I say that, you know, women are dream killers, but it's not because women have this malicious plan to be a dream killer. It's because those guys have been conditioned to allow women to kill the dreams for them. Mm-hmm. So they think that it's their duty to give up all of these things and to just sort of relinquish everything about their own identity. And what happens is it's like what I talked about, the ballad of Clark Kent. You know, Lois Lane gets with Clark Kent or gets with Superman, and he can fly and he can do all these superheroic things. And then little by little, death by 1,000 paper cuts, she turns him into Clark Kent. And then later on, she gets bored with Clark Kent and she ends up going and having sex with Batman because Batman's a superhero, right? Batman's more exciting and fun the way he used to be, but he decided to give up all that and become Clark Kent because that's what he thought was going to make him a man. That's what he thought was going to make Lois happy. And that's exactly what you see going on with Harry and Meghan right now. Yeah, I would say definitely within 3 to 5 years. And I would say only because they are a royal family, when you see this situation just with like the common folk, you know, when you see this just an average run of the, you know, mediocre guys and mediocre women, and you see this exact same situation, it goes on a lot longer because those men have more invested in it, and women have far more opportunity to exit that relationship if they want to at any time they want to, and they go away with cash and prizes. So,
we talked about hypergamy Saturday morning when I got up. Remember the program Cheaters?
Yes.
So it's on one of these channels. I don't know, Bravo, whatever, but they were doing a marathon. And I just happened to flip it on. And there was an Indian gentleman married to this lady for I don't know how many years. But he was a pretty well-to-do entrepreneur, and he got cheaters involved. Anyways, they bust the lady with a guy that's a total dirtbag. It looks like he should living in a trailer park, probably a meth head, tats all over the place. But when he confronts her, he says, "How could you do this to me? I love you. How could you do this to me?" She said, "Here's her reply: You're never home, and you're boring.
Yes,
you're boring." That's why she's with this clown who's all tatted up, missing teeth. Just looks like a total dirtbag. But he's giving her something she can't get from her husband, who's a great provider, great beta, but she's getting the excitement she can't get from him.
Exactly the same situation with Princess Diana. Okay, exactly the same situation. I think you will see that there are some women who will marry their beta first. And then they'll say, "Oh my gosh, this guy is so boring. I can't deal with it anymore." And who do they go for? They go for the most exciting polar opposite of that guy as soon as they get out of that, because they're making up for missing out. This is one of the reasons why I tell guys, never get married when you are younger. Never get married when you're 19 or 20 or whatever, because and it's not necessarily you. Maybe you as a guy, you say, "Hey, I'll be a great father and a great husband, whatever." Okay, great. You want that. But what's going to happen is you're going to get to a point where your girlfriend who becomes your wife, she's going to get to her epiphany phase. She's going to be between 29 and 30 years old, or 31 years old, and she's going to say, "I feel like I'm missing out." And she's going to start living vicariously through her girlfriends. She's going to start going out on girls' nights out. She's going to go and think that, well, I just kissed him. I didn't have sex with him. I was drunk. He was cute. And one thing led to another. Right. And so, and eventually, that woman is going to have to face the fact that she's just missed her 20s because she thought that getting married to you back at 19 was a good idea. Yeah. I counsel guys constantly about this. They've got like maybe 2 or 3 kids involved in this whole thing. One of my very good friends was involved in this. He got married like right out of the Navy, and he had 3 kids. His wife started fooling around right at that time, right at like, I think she was like maybe 31, 32 years old at that point. And I had to talk him off the edge. I mean, the guy was like following his wife around to find out where she was going to fool around with her other boyfriend, because she felt almost exactly a verbatim what she said to him is, "You're boring. You're not exciting. You're not, they want to have that, and they don't realize that there's sacrifices that go along with being married. There's sacrifices that go along, but you don't have to worry about that as a woman anymore. You don't have to worry about sacrifices, because we have a social order that has been designed to absolve women of any kind of responsibility or any kind of, they have, what do we talk? 100% authority and 0% accountability, or 0% responsibility. And so when women know that, what's the incentive? Why not go for that? So if there's one side of hypergamy that has been accounted for, women are going to go hard the other way. So I would say that if we lived in a society where it was nothing but asshole alphas all the time, yeah, maybe that beta guy would look like a pretty good option. But we don't live in those, and that's simply not the way hypergamy is structured. 85% of guys are betas, and 20% are going to be alpha guys. And even those 20%, only a very small few are actually going to be able to make that work in practicing a different kind of sexual strategy. For the most part, guys are going to be conditioned to be betas and waiting to be. I would say that a lot of the guys, a lot of the alphas that I know who did get married, they had a very strong conditioning to think in a certain way, to be supportive, to be that perfect. Because it's not knocking them or anything for that. I'm just saying that the reason that they got to that point is because they might have been natural alphas, but they were conditioned, that alpha instinct was kind of conditioned out of them through either life circumstances or for social conditioning and acculturation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So where else do you want to go with the dream?
Well, I'm just gonna say the dream killer kind of thing. It's people think that I'm making this stuff up because I'm hitting on women, or I'm hitting back on women. This is not. The dream killer dynamic is really mostly about guys. Women are going to do what women are going to do. What you have to do as a man is to understand the nature of women and understand your role in what she would like to be your role in her sexual strategy, and decide whether or not that's something that you want to do and that you want to take a part of. People think that and we should really do a full episode on hypergamy at some time, because this has become really controversial all of a sudden on YouTube now. People think that, all Roller Over talks about is hypergamy. I don't want to hear anything about it anymore. Well, the problem is that they have this misguided idea of what hypergamy is. They have this misguided idea of me thinking that hypergamy is good or it's evil. Okay, it can be both. Okay, it can be either or, but guys need to understand that, and they need to have a full understanding of how that works personally, like micro to macro, how it works on the biological level all the way up to the social and the political level, and then decide what you're going to do with yourself at that point, and understand that you've probably been subject to blue pill conditioning for a good part of your life. What are you going to do in those situations? How are you going to, the number one thing I tell guys when they get into a relationship, or then when they unplug, I guess, is they need to start making themselves their own mental point of origin, because that is where it begins. When you're 5 years old and you have just this feminine primary education, and I mean that like on all levels, on all aspects of society, whether it's family or it's a social thing, or it's in school or whatever, you are taught to put women as your mental point of origin. That's why Harry's in the predicament that he's in right now. That's the first thing you need. If you're red pill aware and you say, you know what, okay, I've taken the red pill, you need to say what is best for me in life. And once you get that, once you believe in enlightened self-interest, that's when you say, okay, who's worth helping and who's not worth helping anymore.
When we were at the 21 convention, one of the things I said, it was funny to see the look on people's faces, guys' faces. We're trained to think that the woman is the prize. In this case, the princess, yes. Okay, she's the prize. It's the exact opposite. You're the prize. You're the catch. That's why you've got to put the time, the effort, the energy into improving yourself so that you're worthy of that catch status. But everybody has it backwards. That the woman. Now, here's the other thing too, and I'll throw this at you real quick, because people will say, well, you've got a contradiction here, because in the past, we've talked both on my program and I think on the podcast here too, about you want a kind of woman that's going to leave her family, leave her religion, leave her country for you. Okay. So you want the woman to do that, but it's not okay if the guy does that. Why?
No. Well, first of all, because the man has to be the primary in any relationship as it is anyways. That's just simply, people think, well, that's really sexist. Yes, it is sexist. It's patriarchal too. But the fact of the matter is that we have had more success together where a man is the dominant male and the woman is the submissive female over the course of millennia right now. So I would say that that's the first thing. Now, the other thing is like, do I want a woman who is going to give up her religion to have sex with me, or to marry me, to be part, be a part of my frame? Sure, I would love to, but I'm not going to say that's a requisite for me. You have to change your religion. I mean, maybe for some guys it is. I don't know, but I certainly wouldn't do that. But I see that as those are illustrations of desire or levels of desire. Like, what would you do? Are you a ride or die girl? If I got arrested and I'm sitting in the back seat of the patrol car, are you going to be the girl who, knocks out the cop, gets in the car, and we drive away and we live like Bonnie and Clyde? Are you going to be that girl for me? That's really what it is it's a test of desire. The other thing, women give me this grief all the time. The third iron rule of Tomassi, which is if a woman makes you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait, right? Because there's always something that is mitigating between. That's not about that. People think that this is about, well, a girl has to have sex with you immediately. Oh, that sucks, man. You think she's a slut? Blah, blah. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the levels of desire. And understanding what she should want to crawl under barbed wire and hide in your closet and do all of these things for you, because that is the level of desire that she wants for you. If that's not already there, she's mitigating it by order of degrees. So I was going to tell you this other really quick story here. This is really funny. Who's Prince Harry's brother? I forget the guy's name.
Isn't it William?
Philip? Is it William? Well, maybe it's William.
Yeah. Maybe I'm off of that. Go ahead.
And I was in the manosphere when all this was going down. Right. And I can remember being on Twitter or reading some of these, maybe it was in forums or something like that. But he decided that he did not want to wear a wedding ring. And that was just a tradition for them. Like, a woman wears a ring and the man does not wear a ring. I wear a ring. Okay. That doesn't necessarily mean that, I don't want to feel like I'm owned or whatever. No, it's just, it's just something, it's just something he didn't want to do that. He wanted to say, I'm not going to wear a ring. Right. And women lost their shit. I mean, they went through the roof. I can't believe he's not going to wear a ring. And they just went crazy. And it was funny because it was the opposite for Harry, but for Prince William, he didn't want to wear a ring. And women were like, women like, I can't believe he's not gonna do that. You know, what on this? This is what she said. They said, who does he think he is? He thinks he's the Prince of fucking England. That's who he thinks he is. You know, I mean, you know, when you're talking about who gets the you know, who's the primary in that relationship, and that goes back to what you were just talking about right there. The guy needs to be the dude who he needs to be the one that she admires, and she looks up to, and she respects. And part of that might be, you know, I'm not going to wear a ring. It's the same thing with like women will say, well, she's going to hyphenate her last name, or she's not going to take his last name. Okay, well, fine. I'm not going to wear a ring.
Well, you know, back to Harry here for a minute. You know, I talked about Edward VIII. He had to abdicate the throne so he could marry the divorced woman, Wallis Simpson, right? Here's the deal. And this is what you've been pointing out all day. Harry has abdicated his throne. He's given all the power to her. She's the puppet master.
Yeah, she's the power behind the throne. And I've actually had, I don't think I've written a post about this, but a lot, even when it comes to religion, like a lot of women want to say, well, you know, religion is run by men. You know, men are the ones who are up there at the pulpit. Men are this. And I'm like, yeah, but the thing is the people who that guy is trying to appease is women. Right. So the power behind that throne, the power behind that social context is women, because women are the ones who are, you know, paying the bills. They're the ones who are signing the tithe checks. And in this case, yes, you're right. He's abdicated authority to her. And I think if it takes longer than shorter for them to get divorced, it will be because she likes having some of that authority. She's going to like to have some sort of that social influence, because who is she without Prince Harry? Who is she at all? Who is she at all anyways? But I mean,
she's a B actress.
Yeah, she's a B actress. And you know what? It makes me wonder what the Queen actually thinks about all of this. Yeah. So anyways, you know, one thing before we break here, is you and I were talking about, and I wanted to get to this because this is the bonus content. I wanted to talk about designer babies. And do you want to start by talking about the gay children? Do you want to have gay children?
Well, yeah. Well, do you have that post? Do you have it so we can put it up?
I don't have it with me right now. I'll put. Oh, you know what? It's in the description right now. The links are in the description for the designer babies. Is that the one you're talking about?
I got to bring that up, because that was what's really got my attention. Was that is a post that I've seen on Facebook, and it's making the rounds, and it's very popular with women. Okay, and late teenage, early 20 women. Okay. Because I saw one of my daughters, one of their friends had it up on theirs, but it's basically making the case that if you're, you know, and I think I told you, I did this at a symposium one time. I was playing with people and I said, how many people out there want their son to grow up to be a football player or a basketball star or a baseball player? You know, everybody hands up, you know, or an attorney or, you know, a successful businessman or woman. And then you ask the same, how many people out there want their son to turn out to be gay? Zero hands, including two gay guys that were in the audience. Okay. Plus, well, here's the thing. They would come back at you and say, well, the only reason we don't want gay kids is because of the societal attitudes. You know, if we could change those, then it would be okay. Even if you changed all the attitudes today, I don't think still people would want or desire, you know, to have a gay son or a homosexual daughter. And again, we're identifying a behavior. It's a behavior with the person. You know, it's a behavior with the person. It's not an occupation. It's not a calling. It's a behavior with that person. But the line from this lady is that if you are not ready if you don't want a gay kid, okay, in your house, you're not ready to be having babies or marrying me. And, you know, the hands out and they move on with that. But comment on that. I'll see if I can pull this up real quick.
I was just going to say that what got me when you were telling me that story was it reminded me of the designer baby, because I guess scientists in China have decided that they've created the first gene edited child, I think. Right. Or maybe it's a gene edited animal of some sort. I don't know, but they know how they can do this right now. So it's getting to the point where we can say, do you want blue eyes? Sure, no problem. Do you want blonde hair or white? You know, whatever. Do you want whatever male, female, whatever you want? And I think this is kind of crossing into some really dangerous territory, because now we are deciding our evolutionary state by our ideologies. So if we can say, you know what, it's better if we all look like this, or it's better if we're like they were talking about, like, you know, they're going to make like super soldiers. You know, we're going to make them more muscular.
Let me read.
We're going to make space marines.
Let me read the post here. It says, if you have the quote, I don't want my child to be gay, unquote mindset, you're not ready to have children. the fact that your homophobia, which is an irrational fear of homosexuality, could overpower your love for your child means you don't love your child the way you should. And that's basically her. But the thing that kills me with this, and I'm going to be talking about this on my program tomorrow with Dr. Piper from Oklahoma Wesleyan University. This is making the rounds. Like I'm down with that. She's right. You know, that if you've got any sort of standard that your child does or doesn't meet, that, you know, if you're judging them on that, that you're the bad guy. You're the one that needs to change.
Yeah, and I get that. And what if we're going to add one more layer of complexity to that by saying now you can choose. Now you can decide whether you can have the kid that your ideology at that time dictates to you. What do you think is great? Because, you know, what's interesting is like you can have different ideologies. You can have different you know, opinions and objective, you know, goals and stuff at 22 that you're not going to have at 42. So,
and again, it's back to a behavior thing here. And I'll give you an example. Okay?
Yes.
You should love your children. You should love your children unconditionally. Okay. But let's say I've got a child that's a drug addict, maybe as an adult. Okay. I love the child, right? But I don't dig the drug addiction. And I'm never going to wrap my arms around that and go, that's okay. It's not okay. You know, we have standards, and there's a reason it's not okay. It's the same thing with this.
Yeah, well, and that what gets me is that now we can choose that, but is that a guarantee of behavior? You know, I think, and people will probably correct me on this, but I am still on the fence as to whether or not homosexuality is a genetic thing. Is there a gay gene? Because if there is, I have not read any.
There's no scientific evidence to actually support
that actually says that. So you know, in other words, maybe, you know, and that's interesting. Is like, what if you had children that you could select, you know, certain genetic traits for? Like, who's going to select a little girl who's going to have a tendency to be overweight? Who's going to want to select for a child that is going to be at least socially disadvantaged at that particular time? You know, because of they didn't get the genetic lottery. Now we have the winning ticket. We can use it whenever we want to. I think that this is going to be real interesting because we have such a feminine primary social order right now. So that feminine primacy is going to dictate what is and what isn't appropriate for women to say. You know, right now, who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide what the kid is going to have and what the kid doesn't? Because right now, abortion, once a woman is pregnant, all control goes over to her, right? Well, now we're talking about before pregnancy. So is it the man who gets to control, or is it the woman who gets to control? And I will guarantee you in this day and age, it will be the woman who gets to control.
By the way, she can terminate that pregnancy at any time for any reason. Okay. Especially in certain states where you can go right up to the third trimester. Right. But now they're getting on the guy because he has an issue with the behavior. He's the bad guy. But this is the feminine imperative at work, because this is all about feeling.
Yes.
This is not, you know, intellectual. This is not thinking. This is not rational. It's feeling. This is the way I feel.
Yeah, well, you and I have talked about how I believe that that abortion is the ultimate expression of hypergamy. Okay. And that the reason that women fight tooth and nail to have legal, safe abortions is because they want to have that fail safe. They want to be able to opt out of a pregnancy if they don't feel that that's the child that they want to carry to term, they want to have, because that man isn't the one that they want to, you know, be attached to for the rest of their lives, because that's what they're going to be doing, really. And so that's why men have zero influence over any of that once she has become pregnant. And you know, what's funny is like this situation is only maybe 50 years old or whatever Roe v. Wade is. It's not that old in humankind. Okay. Because up to this point, before we had hormonal birth control, there was at least some sort of checks and balances between, you know, what kid's going to get born and what kid's not going to get born. And usually it was, you know, you had to be very careful of your hypergamous sexual selection. Otherwise, you know, forget it. But now, because it's interesting to see this kind of a social change, this dramatic a social change happen. Like, I mean, in human history, it's a blink of an eye, right?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say is that so, and that's why women want that level, that degree of control, because anytime you give women control or any kind of social power, they always apply that to their sexual strategy. It's always, how can we ensure and how can we put a fail safe in hypergamy? So our choices, we can be absolved of the responsibilities of our choices if we need to be. Now, the point I was going to attach to this is that now we can gene edit now. And what, I don't know what the Catholic stance on this is, but I think that there's some, like, there's bioethicists right now who are saying this is the worst thing that's ever happened in humankind. And I can understand, considering what happened to humankind after the birth control pill.
Think of the island of Dr. Moreau. By the way, back to the promise of birth control. We were told, we were fed a line, okay, that if we give women full control of their reproductive capabilities, okay, that you're going to have fewer children out of wedlock. In practice, we're not going to need abortion anymore because we're not going to have the pregnancies. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Okay. Since the advent of birth control, we've talked about, what is it, like 40 are for women, and there's like 2 or 3 that guys can use, right? Since the advent, what have we got? We've got out of wedlock births are through the freaking roof. Okay. And abortions in this country since 1973, I've lost count. It's like 55, 56 million. The fruits don't hold up to the promise. And
all of the social stigma that used to go along with being a single mother, completely out the window. In fact, we facilitate single motherhood right now. So what has happened since, and MGTOWs are going to love this, what has happened since we've given women the right, their right to vote, the right to, we just increased more and more, we've given them more and more power. I think that, the voting rights is one thing, but we have continually acquiesced to more and more power for women. And what do they use that power for? They always use it to ensure hypergamy. They always use it to make sure that they can be absolved of bad choices and they can get compensation or cash and prizes for good choices, right? So if they married the right guy who had a lot of money and he's boring, now they've got a fail safe. You can just go out and you can take off anytime you want to. And then on top of that, we have a social order right now that conditions men to be blue pill, to expect to be victims, to expect to be on the receiving end, to expect to never be a man unless they fill that role that has been established for them over the last 50 years. Why? Because they have the power to do so. We've given women the power to do pretty much anything they want to guys right now. And got a lot of guys in the MGTOW community say, well, you just got to take away the right to vote. You got to take away their power. And okay, great. How are you going to do that? What are you going to do? The genie's out of the bottle. So either you live with that and you work your way around it, you go red pill and you understand things. And again, make yourself your mental point of origin and you deal with that and you work within that system, or you break the system. So how likely is it you're going to break the system?
Rolo, the clock has got us here. Quick wrap. Most of the things we've talked about, the links to social media, all underneath the YouTube video, correct?
Yep, they're all in the description below. And please, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel. We're still trying to build it up a little bit more. And then hit the like button if you haven't already hit the like button. We are doing this every Sunday at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time or 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And our talks are really, I like to look at them as being a little bit more remedial, or like as we call it, Red Pill 101. So if you're new to Red Pill, ideas, if you've just if you just read The Rational Male and you've got questions, this is going to be the place for it. I know I keep saying I'm going to do a Ask Me AMA. I really need to do that. I think my next podcast is going to be with George Bruno about Christianity. But once I'm done with that, I think I got to set aside some time to do an AMA very soon. So, get the notifications here, and then you'll get the notifications for that. And then I'm always on with you on Fridays. On your terrestrial radio show. And if you follow my, actually the link is in the description here as well. But if you follow me on Twitter, it's Rolo Tomassi at Rational Male. You'll get the notifications, and I always put something out whenever we're about to go.
Yeah, real quick here too, because we changed websites and servers, so we're in the process of moving a lot of our podcast stuff over. However, if they want any of the shows you've done with me, just go to your website at Rational Male, because you've hit that little that little icon you've got over there with the Talk Radio 1170 KFAQ. We've
Yep.
got them all archived there for you in order. We've been doing it for over a year now.
Yeah. And don't forget, I'm also on the Red Man group. I'm kind of backing up off of that a little bit. I might be on every other show coming up soon. I've been on every single Red Man group for the last, I think probably 45, 49 of these things. We're coming up on a year, which was amazing to me because I never thought we would ever even go past a year, because we never designed to make a Red Man group. It was just something that just sort of evolved naturally. And now it's kind of growing into something, it snowballed into something way bigger than I ever thought it would. So we're going to start doing some more special podcasts. We're going to do a married guys. We're going to do a fatherhood one coming up very soon for this month. And it's going to be some of the guys who are married and with kids and stuff in that respect. So that keep an eye out for that. If it's not this week, it'll certainly be next week. And then keep an eye on the Red Man group. If you have not subscribed to them, I would suggest go over there and subscribe to Red Man group as well, because I'm on there as well. So I'm trying to be a little bit more available. I think I'm trying to be a little more accessible online. So sooner or later, I've got hopefully my audio was okay. I didn't see any complaints in the chat.
You sound good on my end.
So it sounds good. Okay. Well,
fantastic.
good.
See you next week.
All right. We'll see you on Sunday.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.